All right, hello everyone. It's Gooey, as you know, and we're here to follow up on the Q&A that I asked for your questions for as we prepare to go into the next season of Gooey's Dungeon Dive, where I'll be talking about Wind Waker. So we're all pretty excited for that. Thanks for getting these questions to me pretty quickly. Actually, I was like, oh, I'm ready to do this video like right away because I got enough great responses from everyone. So if you like this sort of thing, let me know down in the comments, I guess, or like if there's other things you'd like me to see talk about more in other videos. I guess I could do that. I got a lot of great responses, like I said, and a lot of response to a video that took significantly less effort than most episodes of Gooey's Dungeon Dive, at least in the past year. It's gotten a lot more difficult, which is funny because when I started doing it, if you watch the original ones, I was like pure simplicity. Throw some pictures up there. It's something to do in my spare time, and it still is, but it's just been nice that there is a handful of people who are into it. So I've got the questions. I didn't really organize them really well, I would say. I just sort of threw them out here, so gonna kind of bounce around. I'm just sort of reading off YouTube. So yeah, thanks though. And if we go over something again, we'll double back. I don't know. All right, so first question we've got from longtime watcher Bryce, good friend of ours, asks, what was the hardest dungeon placement in your ranking list for Ocarina of Time? And what are the thoughts on the game? And yeah, so thank you, Bryce, for all the kind comments. Hardest from Ocarina of Time is interesting. Ocarina of Time was interesting just because it felt like it was kind of a big turning point, and while it kept a lot of the stuff from previous games, there's a lot of it that is like, why is it even in this game? And you think, oh, because it's from the previous game. But it has all that, but at the same time, just it being in 3D changes a lot of the ways they do think about certain things. It's obviously a lot for the better, and then some things that I'm like, oh, I wish we hadn't lost that. But the hardest dungeon from the game, I don't recall like specific. I guess there was ones that I always think of so fondly, like the Spirit Temple, which is still pretty cool, still pretty fun, but it's like once I got down to like placing dungeons like that are so iconic and memorable amongst ones that people don't talk about as much, but I had really taken a lot of time over the past few years and like given them some attention. It was like it wasn't necessarily hard, but I was sort of like, it's weird. One has sort of this reputation, and then like not a lot of people are out there talking about Misery Mire or something, something like that. So yeah, just in general, most of the games were, or most of the dungeons in the game. But yeah, obviously thoughts on the game. You've heard me say a million times. Great, it's a great game. Rodrigo, another longtime commenter, asks about both Dungeon Dive and virtual theater aspects of me. For people who don't know, I also do a podcast with the Zelda Cast host Andy Spiteri called Virtual Theater, where we talk about video game movies and the stories that shape them. And over on Patreon, we actually did a bonus series where we talked about the Legend of Zelda cartoon. So go check that out if you're a Zelda fan. But the game, Rodrigo asks, what do you think is the most adaptable to movie, anime, series, anything? What game is the most adaptable? of the Zelda series, I guess. And Rodrigo says Link's Awakening because a lot of layers on that story, and it's short enough, and Ocarina of Time for a longer series with seasons. Um, that's interesting because Andy and I from Virtual Theater also did an episode back on the Champions Cast, the former name of the Zelda cast, where we talked about what we would pitch for a Zelda movie. And I even think over on Zelda Dungeon, Moss and I did like casting a Zelda movie. And the one thing I think is like, I guess when I talked about it, I don't even really stand by my opinion in that as much anymore because I was sort of bargaining. Because in my mind, I was sort of thinking everyone sort of goes to at first like the idea of making like a Lord of the Rings huge trilogy epic, the most fantastical thing you've ever seen, the, high effects, everything. And it just seems so I don't know if that is even like literally something that could happen for Zelda, like I don't know if it would ever get that sort of budget in adaptation, that sort of effort and time, like when I think about the new Mario Brothers movie, it's it's probably not going to be the most expensive or ambitious movie ever made, so in that episode I was sort of like doing bargaining. I was like I think I pitched like get the person who directed Bumblebee or something to make it, like just kind of an average movie because I thought that's probably the best shot it has. But I don't know. I have come around more to the idea of I would much rather see something animated, and specifically like I don't know what it would be, but just like a totally unique animation style, it's like kind of how all the games are super distinct and everything like that. I think coming up with something original with maybe a new style, but also that feels like Zelda, that could be cool. As for what game, it could be any of them really. If you just they all have a lot of them have similar stories, and you can kind of plug and play with different aspects of the series. Maybe just even its own original story. I do like the idea of Link's Awakening, but it's very specific, So I don't know what they would do. But I think of like the Castlevania series, for example. It just kind of like took various things from the series of Castlevania and kind of mixed them together. It's a little canon feeling, but maybe it's not. I don't know. So, yeah, that's that. I don't know what game, but any of them would probably be fine. I do stick by my on our Virtual Theater Patreon for the Zelda cartoon. I pitched that in like an Adult Swim style, where they reuse old animation like those early Adult Swim shows, that they should just bring back the Zelda cartoon and use the same assets and edit them together and make different episodes out of them. I feel like all the individual characters have their own funny quirks that it would make like a good sitcom, because like Link, he's a little bit of a horn dog. Zelda hates his guts. Sprite is really into Link, and the King is like really stupid. And I think there's a lot of like funny, hijinks they could get up to in that. So yeah, bring back the Zelda cartoon. All right. Mido, our old pal Mido, is also a Star Trek fan. Deep Space Nine is their favorite. Mido says, I've struggled with the new Trek shows, but I'm loving Strange New Worlds. It's really good. Have you had a chance to watch it? And what's your ranking of Star Trek? I have been watching it, and I do enjoy it. Which I really, at least with the new like live action shows, I've kind of had a hard time getting into them as well. And this one, it feels nice. It feels like they're trying hard to be like, hey, you remember Star Trek, right? Like, this is like, you remember it, please. Which I feel like is like, it's good and bad, because there's a lot of stuff, missing from elements of classic Star Trek that I really liked, that haven't come forward in the new one. And part of it isn't really just because Star Trek, it's also just like a different way of making TV shows, stuff like that. I get it. But one thing, it does feel like Star Trek. That's important. And when I think about other shows that I really like in Star Trek, like Deep Space Nine or Voyager, is those also feel like Star Trek, but they also have their own like unique hook to it. So like Deep Space Nine is like, it's on the station, and there's this whole Cardassian, Dominion, Bajoran, founders, thing connected to it. Very unique, especially with like all the prophets, and like the religious aspect is pretty unique. And then Voyager, it's like they're off lost in the Delta Quadrant. It's a unique pitch. It's not just we're flying around, we're doing Star Trek missions, even though that's what they do a lot. So Strange New Worlds, I feel like it totally doesn't have like a thing it's about yet, at least at the time of recording this video, which is fine. I don't think it needs to in the first season. I'm not totally opposed to like it being a prequel, because I think some people might think that's limiting, like there's not much they can do, and we'll just see how that turns out. But like, even I think of Enterprise, it ended up exploring like an interesting point in time, and then it flashed forward to like the future, or like it talked about elements from the future and sort of filled out the world a little bit more. So even that, as a prequel that sometimes had stupid prequel episodes, found its own unique vision, even if, I don't know, there's some plots or like premises of episodes that like it's probably the third time they had done them between all the Star Trek shows, or it's like a copy of a copy of a copy. So I understand the need to go in new directions, but Strange New Worlds I am liking a lot. The motorcycle going on outside. I'm liking Strange New Worlds a lot. It's really settling in, and I hope I'm cautiously optimistic in a way I haven't been before. All right. So, Jonathan asks, I know this could change quickly if the rumors of a Nintendo Direct are on June 29th are true, but what is your current hype level for Breath of the Wild 2? Yeah, hopefully a Direct doesn't... There's no Direct right now. Maybe there will be one after I record, so maybe my hype level will change, but like... I'm really looking forward to it. I love Breath of the Wild, and I think there's a lot more that they can do with it. And it's one of those things. I said it on the delayment video back on Zelda Dungeon when they announced the delay of the game, that I'm hyped for it, but when they delayed it, I was sort of like, that's silly, but also like, I don't really have a lot of time to play. I have a few games I play outside of like stuff I have to do for Dungeon Dive, but like there's just a million games that are announced all the time that look amazing that I just personally don't have the time for. I'm not one of those people. So I don't know. I got Elden Ring in March, and it's still the game I'm playing. So, and who knows, I might be playing that all year. So I'm pretty hyped, but I guess compared to other people, like I'm not like frothing at the mouth, but I will play it as soon as it comes out. So don't act like this is an indictment of the game or anything. Which Zelda game would you like to see either remade or remastered next? I don't know, probably Zelda 2. I would just like to see something, maybe something new too in that sort of style. Maybe let an indie in like a Crypt of the Necrodancer type thing, like let a Metroidvania maker make a Zelda Metroidvania, you know. But yeah, I don't know. You can remake them all you want. um, let's see. What is your game of the year so far? And what are you looking forward to the rest of this year? Like, I don't even. Yeah, I always like pay attention to what's announced, and then I kind of forget it, and I have to look up like what's coming out later this year. So I don't really remember. But it's probably Elden Ring so far because I've only played a few games. I guess an answer I could say for this is I saw Tunic is coming to PS4, and I think currently it's only on Xbox and PC right now. And that's kind of the next game I really want to play. Um, so I know it's already technically out, but that seems like it could rival Elden Ring for me. Um, but yeah, on top of that, that sort of reminds me like another thing I'm doing too is just like I'm playing old games a lot too. Uh, so like there's a ton of classics that I've missed over the years, you know, and so between this, it's like I'm happy for all the new games that come out. There's a lot that look great. But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not gonna play them all. There's some I yeah. Let's just say I'm not gonna play them all. Um, geez, if you had there's a lot of questions in this question, but sure. If you had the power, which dead franchise would you bring back to life? I should have thought about this a little bit more. Because I don't know what I like everything now. I think they've gone to the well a little bit, and I like we're getting like remakes of everything I liked. Like I really liked Perfect Dark, and there's like a new Perfect Dark game. Um, yeah, so I can't think like all the series I love are pretty much have come back. Like Resident Evil is, I never really left, but you know what I mean. It's like having a moment. Um, gosh, yeah. I don't know off the top of my head. That is one I will if I will think about and I will get back to you. Okay, Star Trek questions. Oh man, Orville season 3 or Strange New Worlds. I've never watched the Orville. It sounds like to me similar to like the little nitpick I would have of Strange New Worlds is that it's like it just does feel like it does seem like it's like remember Star Trek and I want it to be a little bit more interesting than that, maybe a little more creative, but I haven't seen it, but it looks good. It looks all right. It looks it looks like Star Trek, which I enjoy. Um but I'll check it out at some point. Opinion on the Kelvin timeline. With the popularity of Star Trek, do you think we'll see a fourth Kelvin movie? Do you want one? Uh, sure. Why not? I don't really like it actually. On paper and in principle, I think it's kind of lame. I understand the behind the scenes decisions of what they were going for, but the first Star Trek, I think they all feel like Star Trek 5 a little bit to me, where they're all like kind of these ridiculous sort of shallow interpretations of the classic characters, and that's how I feel like they sort of acted in 5, but not as bad. But despite that, I feel like the first one, it's like fun. It's almost like parody or something like that, or like fan fiction, but it's fine. It's fun. Um, the second one I think is awful. Uh, I did love it a lot when I saw it. Also, I have a Star Trek podcast. I don't know if you know. I have a Star Trek podcast called Backtrekking, where we talk about Star Trek and like sort of stories that inspire it. And we kind of compare the two, and so it's like half one thing, half Star Trek thing. It's very fun. But anyways, Into Darkness I think is awful. It's stupid in a way that I think a lot of, and I don't want to disparage anyone. This is just how I feel about it. But like certain or a lot of like the stories in Discovery, it's just a lot of it's very fast and like throwing a lot of stuff at you, but it's really hollow behind it. It's like it's kind of stupid. Um, it's just always like bam, 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 hitting you after one thing after the next, and it doesn't all actually really make sense. But you don't really like it's going so fast you don't really notice. So I guess that's fine because by the time you get to Beyond, I like Star Trek Beyond because I think they embrace that more. They let a Fast and the Furious guy uh, direct the movie, and I think it's better off for it because I love the Fast and the Furious movies. They are all pedal to the metal and they're a little dumb, but they don't. I don't know. They're sincere in a weird way, and anyway, I think that had that more like lighthearted. It wasn't trying to do this like dark, serious like commentary and be a Fast and the Furious movie. Which I don't know. Actually, not when I say that, it sounds great, but I guess they just didn't do a good job of it. I don't know, but fourth movie, yeah, sure. Why not? I'm down. Favorite Doctor, probably the Doctor from Voyager. Yeah, it's a great character. Okay, been going for a while, but I guess this will be a long one. Corey Richmond asks, should they bring Tony Trippy back to compose for a future Zelda game? I certainly think so. That's the Wand of Gamelon composer. Absolutely, if so, because the absolute bangers in Wand of Gamelon. Anubite also liked the Zelda CDI music, but asks, is there a band or individual artist you would ever like to see make music for the Zelda series? What would you envision them doing? I don't know, actually, because I feel like I don't know anyone who specifically likes it, but it have to be it seems like a really specific thing, you know what I mean? Uh I really don't know. I think though, over on Virtual Theater, we just did a Patreon bonus episode where we talked about Linkin Park's Meteora, and we talked about how they I sort of think they're like a nerdy band, like they're a bunch of dorks, and they wrote music that like fit well over like anime AMVs or whatever. Um, Obviously, I don't think they're gonna make new music ever again, but if you go out and you make a Legend of Zelda Linkin Park AMV with, I don't know, clips from Skyward Sword, Andy would love that. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer. The most I can think is where like people will like sample little bits, or like there was that Ocarina of Rhyme album by Team Teamwork that did like the mashups, and it was actually really well done. But yeah, yeah, I don't know about that one. There is a lot of great like people who've made, reimaginings and covers and stuff like that, obviously, over the years. Happy Masquerader asks, what's your favorite spooky dungeon in the series? I'm sure if I took a look at my list and saw how it was ranked, it would be different than what I actually put, but I kind of want to just say the Forest Temple, just because it was kind of a trip at the time, you know what I mean? And like it's so memorable and spooky and everything. And it's just an all around great dungeon too. That I guess that's the vibe I would like to add, or that it adds. The vibe that it has, I would say, is unique too. It's not just like Halloween themed or whatever. It's like this old abandoned, overgrown, forested area, and yeah, just go back and watch my video on that one, and I'll say all the things that I need to say about that dungeon. All right. James Russo asks, I noticed the Star Trek the motion picture poster. I also have this old TV Guide poster that has the info on the Enterprise through the Enterprise from Enterprise, and it's got Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and the Enterprise D. Very cool poster. But yeah, James was a big Star Trek fan. When the motion picture came out, which was in 1979, right? I was in awe of seeing the show. I loved on the big screen. I loved it. Would like to know your thoughts on the movie. Is it considered a good movie by the younger generation? I think, well, I might be a little different because I kind of like slow burn, science fiction, sort of like psychological, trippy movies, you know? But I do know a lot of people who do think the movie is boring. I've loved it pretty much. I think it was like the second time I really watched it that it clicked with me. But I think from the beginning, I did think it was really interesting in general. It's so unique. It's the only episode, or the only Star Trek thing that really feels like the 70s, you know what I mean? Like the original series feels very 60s. Next Gen starts out pretty 80s. So yeah, it's kind of got a unique identity. I think it's got an amazing story, visuals, and everything. The cast is awesome. Actually, my co-host on Backtracking has another Star Trek podcast called Enterprising Individuals. And if you go look from a few months ago, we did an episode that I came on and we ranked all the movies. So I can give more thoughts about it there. But we actually did that right before we went to Star Trek convention in Chicago, whatever, I forgot what it's called already, but they had the new director's edition, you know, that they screened, that's on Paramount Plus, and they had the producer there, and he gave some background on it and everything. And I guess it's not like a director's cut necessarily, but it's more, the story he told was that they said they never really got to like finish certain aspects of the movie because it was kind of rushed out at the end. And so there's like incomplete stuff in the movie, and they didn't finish the color grading and anything. So anyway, they played this movie, this version of it, and I already thought it looked great. It looked even better, like the color grading and everything. It just popped even more. They remastered the sound, which was already awesome already. The Jerry Goldsmith score is amazing. And they got to finish, quote unquote, certain effect shots that weren't finished, but otherwise they didn't really like alter it too much. It's not like the like little remasters they did of like the original series or Next Gen. It, like, in my opinion, everyone else was saying like, oh, it's a totally different movie, it's so much better. To me, it's the movie I remember. But anyway, I would recommend checking out that version. But yeah, I think it's not a favorite of like my generation, I guess you could say, but you're silly if you don't like it. All right, DMoon1234 asks, will you still be doing with Mossies on Zelda Dungeon once in a while? Totally. Which Zelda game is the easiest for beginners to try? We actually did a video on that back at the Hyrule Compendium. We have a video called What's Like the Best for a New Player, and I think we both were saying like Ocarina of Time, because it's not too hard. It gets you in right away and like teaches you the fundamentals. And I was also thinking, I guess too, this is more for kids, but like there's not a lot of like cutscenes and like text, you know. If I was thinking of if I tried to play like certain games as a little kid, like Skyward Sword or something, I would be like, what is happening? I can't read. But yeah, will I discuss the timeline of Zelda? I've said a lot about it, I guess, but if you have, I don't really care too much about it either way. I think it's fun that people theorize on it. I wish that was what people did more, instead of like this over adherence to like canon or like a published book. You know what I mean? That's silly, in my opinion. But yeah, if you have questions for me about like aspects of the timeline, I can maybe answer them. But overall, it's not my favorite aspect of the series. And I'm a Star Trek fan. Which one is your favorite series? I guess I didn't do the ranking. I think I did it in the last video though. So maybe just go watch that. But I can do a quick one without like over explaining everyone. But I think it's Deep Space Nine, the Next Generation, or the obvious 1 and 2. Then I maybe original series over Voyager, but maybe kinda. Enterprise, and I could see right now. I guess right now, early on, I'm like, I feel like Strange New Worlds has the potential to pass that. It's had a stronger start certainly than early episodes of Enterprise, so it's better than that maybe already. Then from there, it gets a little strange. I like a lot of the movies better than most stuff after this, but then probably I actually do like the Prodigy, the little Nickelodeon show. I think that's a great show. Then the Rick and Morty one, Lower Decks. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's kind of lame, but it's mostly agreeable. And then Discovery and Picard are like tied for last. I really don't like either of those shows very much. So yeah, that's my quick ranking. All right, Amber asks, "What's your day job?" Feel free to tell me that it's none of my business. Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I do have a day job, like that's full time, and it's in like retail. So, uh, that's why it takes me so long to do some of these, because I don't really have the time to be sitting around making videos all day. Got a lot of other stuff to do. But this is obviously a lot of fun. But yeah, that's what I do. On top of the fact too, I just moved, like I said, and so I've been doing a lot of settling in, and I've been just in general too, just been trying to do a lot of more chilling when I'm off work, so it's hard sometimes to be like, oh, I'm gonna like edit this video. It's like editing is really the least fun part about doing it all. I like the talking about stuff. I probably won't edit this video very well at all because it's just not fun, but I want the Wind Waker videos to be good, so I'm spending time on that. But pacing myself so I don't, hate my life. Jeebus asked thoughts on New Trek. Yeah, I sort of summed it up like New Trek. I think for mostly, it's more positive now because I think there's starting to be more better shows than bad shows, but in general, with the direction of like those live action shows in particular, similar to the Kelvin movies, because it's kind of a lot of people carried over, Alex Kurtzman or whatever, just doing the whole mystery box. Again, everything's moving at 1 billion miles an hour. We're not thinking about it much. They do try to insert serious themes, but they're so overwrought, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. Like they don't feel earned in the story because there's just so much other garbage nonsense. And then I guess I can mention it, but sort of there's a lot of great shows that the way they do shows now with these long arcs. I like a long arc, and even my Star Trek. But what they often do a lot is I think they need to remind you of certain characters in certain episodes. And whereas in like the older shows, they would just maybe have a scene with them like interacting with what the main story is, and then it's like, something fun. In this, they take certain things from characters that in the original series would be like one dedicated 45-minute episode that's mostly about them. even the side character or like not the main character, but they take that story and they have to, instead of like 45 minutes worth, they have to fill even more time with it and stretch it out over a season. And so everyone's deal they're dealing with is such a this unraveling, because it's for you got to binge it. They want to keep people hooked. So it's like just like inch by inch character progression that I actually think is so much more unnatural than people complaining about, like in the original series, like something would happen and then they don't remember it next week. I think it's worse when I get that there are things like that in life that just kind of creep on you for a long time, but it's like that's with every character and it's so unbearable. And I just write me a story you can sum up in 45 minutes, or I guess a little bit longer. You know, I can accept. Add 5 minutes on for like one overarching plot thing, but then, you know, just boil it down to a story with a beginning, middle, and end with room to develop. That's the type of stuff I prefer. Granted, there's a lot of TV shows I like where, like, I liked Breaking Bad when it was out. That was a good one that kept you hooked week to week. Very interesting, but and I'm not even saying you could probably do a Star Trek show that is good at that, but I just think they've been really stupid, to say the least. But yeah, I won't dwell on that much longer. Jackson asks, will you be covering the Four Swords Adventures games? I just got finished with Four Swords Adventures and has some remarkably awesome dungeons. And unfortunately, no. Maybe like when I'm done, but I do like the game and everything, but the dungeons in it, they have the setting of a dungeon, but like the format to me doesn't feel even different than the average level. And then it got into the aspect of what is a dungeon. I guess it's pretty clear like what ones are thematically a dungeon, but like you know, like Village of the Blue Maiden isn't technically a dungeon, but it has an overarching puzzle that you solve much similarly to the dungeon levels in the game. So yeah, I'm probably not gonna do those, but you know, maybe down the road there'll be something. I don't know. We got a long way to go, and I kind of too just don't want to burn people out on, you know, like there's even certain. I just don't want to get bogged down in talking about Four Swords Adventures, I guess, for a while, even though I do like the game. So I'm sorry. And then the unpopular Cuber asks, do you speak another language? And I don't, sadly. So not a great question to go out on, but that's how I organized them. So, or how YouTube gave them to me. So yeah, this was a lot of fun though, answering these questions. Like I said, let me know what other things you'd like me to talk about, or like, you know, if you like this Q&A thing, maybe we can do goo cues. Maybe we can do some more of those down the line. But otherwise, get ready. Wind Waker. Like I said, I'll start releasing it soon. Maybe I'll do monthly for episodes, because I am still barely through the game. And I'm going to have a video soon to announce it more specifically and sort of to say how it's going to be a little different. Not crazy different, but a little different. So then after that, it's a long ways out, but we'll do Minish Cap. And I'll do something a little easier, but maybe more fun. We'll see. Other than that, yeah, if you want me to talk about games and Star Trek, I'll sit in front of a camera and just talk. Why not? It's certainly a lot easier than the these Wind Waker videos, which are going to be great. So other than that, yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you soon for Wind Waker.